Hey guys, tonight we begin with something that sounds relaxing on paper, but was historically a test of human endurance against the elements. We are going back to the origins of golf, but forget the manicured greens, the polite applause, and the electric carts with chilled beverages. We are diving into the raw, windy and muddy reality of how people actually played this game before comfort existed anywhere. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You have just opened your eyes, and the first thing you notice is the wind. It's not a breeze, it's not a gentle gust. It is a relentless, physical weight pressing against your chest, carrying the salty, freezing spray of the North Sea. You are standing on the eastern coast of Scotland, somewhere in the 15th century. The sky isn't blue, it's a shifting, bruised canvas of slate grey and charcoal, hanging so low it feels like you could reach up and touch the clouds, provided your arm didn't freeze solid in the process. Welcome to the links. In the modern world, links is a marketing term used to sell expensive memberships. But here, right now, links refers to the land itself. It is the sandy, useless strip of ground connecting the arable farmland to the violent ocean. It is land that cannot be farmed. It is too salty for crops, too sandy for building foundations, and too exposed for comfortable living. It belongs to the rabbits, the seabirds, and the sheep, and today it belongs to you. You take a step forward, and your foot sinks slightly into the turf. It's spongy, a dense mat of fescue grass fighting for survival atop layers of shifting sand. You aren't wearing spiked athletic shoes with arch support. You're wearing turn shoes, simple leather footwear that has absolutely no grip and, more importantly, no waterproofing. Within 3 steps, the dampness of the Scottish coast has seeped through the leather seams. Your toes are already wet. They will remain wet for the next 4 hours. In fact, they will likely remain wet until you go to sleep tonight near a smoky fire. This is the first reality of ancient golf. You are perpetually damp. You pull your cloak tighter around you. It's made of heavy, coarse wool, smelling faintly of the animal it came from, and the lanolin oil left in the fibres to repel rain. It works, to an extent. The rain beads on the surface, but the wind cuts right through the weave. There is no Gore-Tex here, there is no thermal fleece lining. There is just you, wrapped in layers of rough linen and wool, standing on a desolate dune, wondering why you decided to leave the relative warmth of the town walls to hit a rock with a stick. But you know why. Because inside the town, the air is stagnant with the smell of unwashed bodies, open sewers, and wood smoke. Inside the town, there are duties, debts, and the looming threat of whatever plague is currently circulating through the trade routes. Out here, on the edge of the world, the air is sharp. It hurts your lungs in a good way. It smells of brine and rotting kelp. It is clean. You look out toward the horizon. There is no definition between the sea and the sky. It's just a wall of grey mist rolling in the as the locals call it. It swallows the sound of the world. You can't hear the bustle of the market or the clang of the blacksmith. You only hear the rhythmic, crashing roar of the waves pounding the shore to your left and the high-pitched cry of a solitary gull fighting the gale. There is no clubhouse waiting for you. This is one of the biggest shocks for a modern mind travelling back to this time. There is no reception desk, no locker room, no place to buy a sleeve of balls or a hot coffee. The concept of a golf course as a facility doesn't exist. This is public land, common land. You didn't pay a green fee. You simply walked out of your house, carried your club under your arm, and trudged through the mud until the grass got short enough to swing at something. If you needed to change your shoes, which you didn't, because you only own 1 pair, you would have done it sitting on a cold rock. If you need to use the restroom, the entire dune system is your restroom. Just watch out for the thistles. You adjust the bundle of clubs under your arm. We will talk about them later, but for now, just feel their weight. They are heavy, solid wood. The shafts are thick, made of ash or hazel, and they feel less like precision sporting equipment and more like agricultural tools or weapons intended to bludgeon a small animal. There is no bag with a stand. You're carrying them loose, the heads clacking together with a dull wooden sound every time you shiver, and you're shivering. The cold in Scotland isn't just a temperature. It's a personality trait of the landscape. It creeps under your fingernails. It settles into your knees. It's a damp cold that makes your joints feel like rusty hinges. You rub your hands together, blowing warm breath into your cupped palms. Your hands are rough, calloused from labour, stained with soot and soil. There are no cabretta leather gloves to soften the grip. It's just your frozen skin against the polished wood of the club shaft. You look around for your playing partners. They are emerging from the mist like ghosts. A merchant, perhaps, his tunic slightly better dyed than yours, but just as wet. A stonemason, dust still caught in his beard. Maybe a soldier on leave, looking for a different kind of conflict. Here, on the links, the rigid social hierarchy of the medieval world softens just a fraction. You're all equally miserable in the wind. You're all equally obsessed with this frustrating, pointless game. Play away, one of them grunts. Conversation is sparse. No one wants to open their mouth too wide and swallow a lungful of freezing fog. You drop your ball onto the turf. We'll get to the ball later too, but look at it. It's not a bright white sphere with a number stamped on it. It's a dark leather pouch, stitched together and stuffed until it's rock hard. It looks like a small sad potato. It blends in perfectly with the mud and the shadows. Losing it is a genuine financial tragedy. You take a few practice swings. The ground is uneven. This isn't a tee box levelled by laser sights and bulldozers. This is just a patch of ground that the rabbits haven't dug up yet. There are molehills. There are clumps of sea thrift. There are sheep droppings everywhere. That's the other sensory detail you can't escape. The smell of sheep manure is the background scent of the game. The sheep are the original greenkeepers. They eat the grass down to a playable height, and they shelter in the hollows, creating the bunkers. You're playing in their living room, and they have left presents for you on every fairway. You stand over the ball. The wind whips your hair across your face. You don't have a hat with a visor to block the glare. Though there is no glare today, only a flat, shadowless light that makes depth perception nearly impossible. You can barely see the target. In fact, you aren't even sure what the target is. There is no flag waving in the distance. Just a natural depression in the ground hundreds of yards away, marked perhaps by a darker patch of grass or a discarded shell. You draw the club back. The layers of wool bunch up under your armpits, restricting your movement. A modern swing is fluid, athletic, a coil of potential energy. Your swing here is a chop. It has to be. You're fighting the resistance of your own clothing. You bring the heavy wooden head down. Thwack! It's a dull, dead sound. Not the metallic ping of titanium, but the sound of wood hitting leather. The ball takes flight, staying low, boring through the heavy air. It doesn't soar, it scuttles, it lands 40 yards away and rolls, bouncing unpredictably over tussocks and rabbit scrapes. Good strike, someone mutters. It's not a compliment, it's just a statement of fact. You didn't miss the ball, you didn't break your club. In this era, that is a success. You pick up your clubs and start walking. The wind pushes you from behind now, a cold hand on your back urging you deeper into the dunes. The town is disappearing behind you, swallowed by the grey. The isolation sets in. This is the meditative quality of the game that has survived for 600 years. It's just you, the elements, and the struggle to move forward. But let's pause for a moment on this walk. Feel the ground under your feet again. The terrain is treacherous. Without manicured paths, you're walking through knee-high marram grass that slashes at your shins. The sand dunes are steep and crumbling. Every step requires effort. You aren't gliding down a fairway, you're hiking. Your heart rate rises, not from the thrill of the sport, but from the sheer physical exertion of trudging through soft sand in heavy waterlogged clothes. You reach your ball. It's sitting in a small depression, a cup, formed not by a hole cutter, but by a sheep having a nap. This is the origin of the bad lie. There are no rules here about ground under repair. The whole course is ground under repair. Nature is the repairman, and she is on a break. You have to play it as it lies. You look at the ball, then at the distant target. The path ahead is guarded by gorse bushes, dense, spiky shrubs that bloom with deceptively pretty yellow flowers. If your ball goes in there, you don't retrieve it. The thorns are an inch long and sharp as needles. You leave the ball to the gorse. It's a sacrifice to the gods of the links. As you prepare for your second shot, a fine rain begins to fall. It's not falling down, though. It's falling sideways. It stings your cheeks. You wipe your eyes with a rough sleeve. Your hands are starting to go numb. You lose the sensation in your pinky finger first, then the ring finger. Gripping the club becomes a conscious effort of will. You have to watch your hands to make sure they are actually holding the shaft because you can no longer feel it. And yet you don't stop, you don't turn back. Why? Because life back in the village is dictated by the ringing of bells, the demands of the guild, the master, the lord. Out here, the only master is the wind. There is a strange masochistic freedom in it. You are freezing, you are wet, you are tired, but you are playing. You reach the green. It's just a patch of turf that's slightly flatter than the rest, probably because it's a natural plateau where water drains away. There is no hole liner, just a rough cut in the earth, maybe 4 inches wide, maybe 6. It changes every week. Sometimes, instead of a hole, the target is just a specific post or a rock. Putting is a game of chance. You aren't reading the break of the green. You're guessing how many worm castings your ball will hit on its way to the destination. You tap the ball, it bobbles, hops, skids, and eventually comes to rest near the target. That's a give, and you pick it up. The leather is now soaked through, heavier than it was when you started. You walk to the next teeing ground, which is just a spot 2 paces away from where you finished. The cycle begins again. But as you walk deeper into the course, away from civilization, you notice the landscape changing. The dunes get higher. The shadows get longer. The comfort of the town feels miles away. You're entering the wilder part of the links, the place where the outcast live, where the smugglers hide their goods, where the line between a sport and a survival situation begins to blur. You see a structure in the distance, not a halfway house, but a shepherd's hut, a crude assembly of stones and driftwood with a thatched roof that looks like it's molting. Smoke curls from a hole in the top. It looks inviting, but you know better than to knock. The people who live out here on the edge of the dunes are not the friendly starters you know today. They are hardened souls living off rabbits and washed-up cargo. You keep your head down and keep walking. The cold is settling into your core now. It's a deep, vibrating chill. You can feel your body burning calories just to keep your organs warm. You realise you haven't brought water. You haven't brought snacks. You didn't bring a protein bar. If you get hungry, you wait until you're done. If you get thirsty, you hope you pass a fresh stream that doesn't run through a sheep pasture. But you probably won't. This is golf in its infancy. It wasn't a leisure activity. It was an obsession that took place in a hostile environment. It was a defiance of nature. Every shot was a small rebellion against the chaos of the wind and the land. And as you stand on the precipice of the next dune, looking down into a valley of sand and gorse that looks like a battlefield, you realise something. You're having fun. It's a miserable, painful, freezing kind of fun. But it's fun. The wind howls again, louder this time, tearing at your cloak. You narrow your eyes against the stinging rain. You grip the wet, slippery wood of your club. You address the ball. We are just getting started. The cold is only the first layer of this story. Because beneath your feet, beneath the sand and the grass, lies the history of a game that wasn't designed for fairness. It was designed for suffering, and you, my friend, are right in the thick of it. So tighten your boots if the leather hasn't swollen too much to touch the laces, and keep walking. The next hole is straight into the gale, and I promise you it doesn't get any warmer from here. You're standing at the bottom of a massive dune, looking up. The wind is louder here, channeled through the valleys of sand like water through a pipe. It roars in your ears, drowning out your own breathing. You take a step, and your foot slides backward. This is the terrain you have to conquer. In the modern world, a golf course is an act of engineering. It is nature submitted to the will of man. Bulldozers flatten hills, drainage systems divert water, and genetically modified grass is imported from laboratories to ensure a perfect carpet-like consistency. But here, on the ancient links, the land dictates the game. You're not playing on the landscape, you're playing against it. And the landscape is winning. The ground beneath your boots is a chaotic mixture of bent grass, fescue, and moss. There is no distinction between the fairway and the rough. Those terms imply a designated safe zone and a penalty zone. Here, the whole world is a penalty zone. The only fairway that exists is the path where the sheep have walked most frequently. That's right, the sheep. If you look to your right, you'll see them. A flock of hardy, thick-coated creatures huddled against the side of a hill, chewing methodically. They are staring at you with that blank, indifferent gaze that only livestock possess. You should thank them. They are the architects of this course, they are the greenkeepers, the designers, and the maintenance crew all rolled into one. They eat the grass down to a height that allows you to find your ball most of the time. Without them, this land would be an impassable jungle of waist-high weeds. But the sheep are indifferent gods. They do not care about your line of play. They leave divots where they sleep and droppings where they eat. If your ball lands in a pile of fresh manure, there is no rulebook in your pocket that allows you to lift it, clean it, and place it elsewhere. You wipe your club face on the wet grass afterwards and try not to think about it. You climb the dune, your legs burning. The heavy wool of your breeches clings to your skin, damp and itchy. When you reach the top, the wind hits you with renewed violence, almost knocking you off balance. But the view stops you for a second. Ahead of you lies a moonscape of rolling hummocks and hollows. It's brown, grey, and varying shades of pale green. It looks prehistoric. There are no sprinkler heads, there are no yardage markers, there is just the wild, undulating earth. You spot your ball. It's sitting on a hard patch of ground where the wind has scoured the grass away, leaving only compacted sand and shell fragments. This is a tight lie. In modern golf, you'd be terrified of thinning the shot. Here, you're just grateful you can see the ball at all. You pull a club from your bundle. It's a long spoon, a wooden club with a slightly lofted face designed to scoop the ball into the air. You grip the shaft. The leather wrapping is slick with rain. You have to squeeze so hard your knuckles turn white just to keep the club from flying out of your hands mid-swing. You swing. The club head strikes the hard ground behind the ball with a jarring thud that vibrates all the way up to your teeth. But the ball pops up. It catches the wind. For a moment it looks beautiful, soaring against the grey sky. Then the wind decides it's bored with your success. It swats the ball down, dropping it straight into a dark, jagged pit about 50 yards away. You sigh. You don't swear, or maybe you do, but the wind steals the words before anyone can hear them. You start walking towards the pit. This brings us to the most infamous feature of the game, the bunker. Today, a bunker is a meticulously maintained depression filled with soft, white silica sand. It is raked daily. The edges are trimmed. It is designed to be a hazard, yes, but a fair one. The hole your ball just fell into is not a bunker. It is a scar on the face of the earth. It began as a small hollow where a sheep decided to sleep to get out of the wind. Over time, the sheep rubbed against the sides, widening it. The wind blew the loose sand away, deepening it. Then maybe a storm washed more sand out. Now, it is a gaping, uneven crater filled with heavy, wet grit, sharp stones, seashells, and probably some animal bones. There are no rakes. Nobody has ever raked this pit. It is full of footprints yours, your opponent's, the sheep's, maybe a fox's. Your ball is sitting in the bottom of a hoofprint, half buried in grey sludge. You slide down into the pit. The walls are steep and crumbling. You feel like a gladiator entering an arena. But your opponent is a small leather ball, and your weapon is a stick. You can't see the target anymore. You can only see the wall of sand in front of you. You take your sand iron, a heavy, crude, iron-headed club that looks like it was borrowed from a torture chamber. You don't finesse this shot. You don't splash the ball out on a cushion of sand. You hack at it. You swing with the violence of a man trying to kill a snake. Clang! The iron hits a hidden rock under the sand. Sparks fly. The shockwave travels up your arms and explodes in your shoulders. The ball, miraculously, squirts out of the pit and rolls onto the grass above. You scramble out after it, sand in your boots, sand in your eyes, sand in your teeth. You taste the grit. It's salty. You're now approaching the green. If you're expecting a surface that looks like a billiard table, you're in the wrong century. The green is simply the area where the rabbits have eaten the grass shorter than everywhere else. It is not flat. It follows the natural contours of the land, which means it is full of lumps, bumps, and ridges. There is no definition where the fairway ends and the green begins. It just sort of happens. You know you are there because the grass is slightly less tufted. You walk onto the putting surface. It's slow. If you were to measure it on a modern stimp meter, it would probably register a negative number. You have to hit the ball hard to get it to roll. And when it rolls, it bobbles. It hits a worm cast and kicks left. It hits a small pebble and jumps right. Putting here is not a game of precision. It is a game of approximation. You aren't trying to hole the putt. You are trying to get it close enough that your opponent says, "Aye, that's good enough," so you don't have to hit it again. You look for the hole. There is no white plastic cup inside. It's just a raw, dark hole dug into the dirt with a knife or a trowel. It's crumbling around the edges. Sometimes, if it's been raining hard, the hole is full of water. You might have to reach into muddy water to retrieve your ball. And the flagstick? There isn't one. Maybe there's a seagull feather stuck in the ground near the hole to mark it. Maybe there's a pile of white shells. Or maybe you just have to remember where it was from the last time you played. You line up your putt. The wind is pushing you from the side, threatening to blow you over. You widen your stance. You look at the ball, looking like a weary traveller. It's scuffed, dark with water, and misshapen from the beating it took in the bunker. You strike it with your wooden putter. The ball rumbles over the uneven turf. It looks like it's going in. It tracks towards the hole, then 6 inches from the cup. It hits a stiff stalk of grass that the sheep missed. The ball stops dead. You stare at it. The silence of the links surrounds you, broken only by the distant crash of the waves. You feel a profound sense of futility, but then you tap it in. The ball falls into the earth with a dull thud. You reach down and pick it up, and immediately you look towards the next tee. Why? Why do you do this? Why leave the warm tavern to fight the wind and the sand? Because out here the world is simplified. In the town your life is complicated by commerce, by politics, by family strife. Here the only problem is the ball and the land. The hazards are visible. The wind is honest. It hits you in the face. It doesn't stab you in the back. As you walk to the next hole, the landscape changes slightly. You're moving closer to the sea now. The dunes drop away, revealing a stretch of beach. The tide is out, leaving a vast expanse of wet, mirrored sand. The air smells stronger here of iodine and rotting crab. The next hole runs parallel to the beach. This introduces the ultimate hazard, the ocean. There is no out-of-bounds stake. There is just the Atlantic. If you slice your ball to the right, it is gone. It belongs to the mermaids now. And remember, that ball cost you a week's wages. The fear of the ocean is not just sporting, it is economic. You tee up your ball on a small pyramid of wet sand you mould with your fingers, because wooden tees won't be invented for another 400 years. You aim significantly to the left, towards a dense thicket of gorse. You would rather fight the thorns than lose the ball to the waves. You swing, the ball stays safe, landing in the long grass on the left. You begin the walk again, the rhythm of the game takes over. Walk, hit, search, walk. It is a slow, hypnotic cadence. The cold is still there, gnawing at your bones, but your body is generating heat now. You're in the zone, a trance state induced by repetitive motion and sensory deprivation. The sky begins to darken. The clouds are thickening, turning a bruised purple colour. A storm is coming. You can see the rain veil sweeping across the ocean, blotting out the horizon. It will be here in 10 minutes. Most sensible people would head for shelter, but there is no shelter. You are a mile from the town. The only way home is through the course. You have to play your way back. You approach a particularly nasty stretch of land known as the Elysian Fields. A sarcastic name, surely, because it looks nothing like paradise. It is a bog. The ground here is sodden, black mud hidden under a layer of deceptive green moss. You step carefully. The mud sucks at your boots with a squelching sound. Sluck, sluck. If you stand still for too long, you will sink. You have to keep moving. Your ball is lying in the mire. It's half submerged. This is where the game becomes a question of character. Do you nudge it with your foot to a better spot? No one is watching. The mist has closed in again. The sheep aren't looking, but you don't. You can't. The spirit of the game, even in this raw, unregulated era, demands honesty. If you cheat the land, you cheat yourself. You take your stance, feeling the cold water seep over the tops of your shoes. You grit your teeth. You swing down steeply, splashing mud all over your face and tunic. The ball flies out, dead and heavy, landing on safer ground. You wipe the mud from your eyes. You look like a creature from the swamp. You are freezing. You are filthy. And you are absolutely, completely alive. This is the seduction of the lynx. It strips away the veneer of civilization. It reminds you that you are an animal struggling against the elements. It connects you to the people who walked this same ground generations before, the shepherds, the soldiers, the kings who sought refuge here. As you trudge up the next hill, the rain begins to fall in earnest. It's icy and relentless, but ahead, through the gloom, you see a flickering light. It's the lantern of the inn at the edge of the town, the 19th hole, though they don't call it that yet. But we aren't there yet. We still have the journey back. We still have to navigate the final stretch of dunes, where the shadows play tricks on your eyes and the wind whispers strange things. You check your equipment. Your clubs are wet. The wood is swelling. The leather grips are unravelling. The ball is heavy and waterlogged. Everything is degrading. Entropy is setting in. And yet, you feel a strange sense of peace. The lynx is a liminal space, a threshold between the ordered world of man and the chaotic world of nature. For a few hours, you exist in that gap. You're a part of the landscape, just another moving object buffeted by the wind, like the gulls and the thistledown. You take a deep breath of the freezing air. It clears your head. The worries of tomorrow, the harvest, the taxes, the wars seem very small compared to the immediate tangible problem of getting this leather ball into that hole in the ground. You walk on, the sound of the sea is your heartbeat, the wind is your breath, the game continues. You are standing on the next teeing ground, shaking the feeling of the mud from your boots. The rain has eased off slightly, replaced by a fine clinging mist that coats everything in a layer of moisture. This brings us to the most intimate part of the game, the tools you are holding in your hands. In the modern world, golf equipment is a triumph of materials science. You have titanium drivers with variable face thickness, graphite shafts designed to optimize launch angles, and balls engineered with urethane covers for maximum spin. Your equipment is designed to help you. It is designed to forgive your mistakes. Here, in the 15th century, your equipment hates you. Let's look at the club you are gripping. It doesn't have a brand name. It doesn't have a number. It was made by a bowmaker or a carpenter in the back of a damp workshop. It consists of a shaft made from ash or hazelwood strong, yes, but heavy. It doesn't flex with a satisfying snap like modern carbon fibre. It bends sluggishly like a tree branch in a gale. And the grip? There is no soft, tacky rubber compound to cushion your hands. The handle is wrapped in a strip of thick leather, likely leftover from a saddle or a shoe. To keep it from unravelling, it's coated in pitch, a sticky, black, tar-like substance derived from pine resin. So look at your hands. They are stained black with pitch. It's sticky, yet somehow when combined with the rain it becomes a slippery mess. You have to squeeze the club with a vice-like grip just to keep it from flying into the North Sea. This tension travels up your forearms, creating a dull ache that will turn into a sharp cramp by the back nine. Attached to the shaft is the head. It's a block of wood, usually beech or pear, spliced onto the shaft with glue and whipped tight with pitch twine. It looks fragile because it is. If you strike the ground too hard, which, given the rocky root-filled terrain, is almost guaranteed the head will snap. There is no warranty department. There is no pro shop to run to for a replacement. If your club breaks, you are down a club. If you break your driver, or play club as you call it, you are teeing off with a spoon for the rest of the day. This adds a layer of anxiety to every swing. You aren't just worried about where the ball is going, you're worried about whether your equipment will survive the impact. But the club is just a stick. The real star of the show and the source of your greatest financial stress is the ball. Reach into your pouch and pull out a spare. It feels light, lighter than a modern ball. This is the feathery. It is a technological marvel of the Middle Ages, and it is ludicrously expensive. To make one, a craftsman takes a piece of wet leather and stitches it into a small sphere, leaving a tiny hole. Then he takes a top hat full of goose feathers, enough to fill a pillow, and boils them until they are soft. He stuffs the wet feathers into the wet leather using a specialised iron tool, packing them in until the leather is bursting at the seams. Then he sews it shut and lets it dry. As the leather dries, it shrinks. As the feathers dry, they expand. The result is a ball that is hard as a rock and taut as a drum. It costs more than your club. In fact, a single featheree costs more than a week's wages for a skilled labourer. Think about that for a second. In the modern world, if you hit a Pro V1 into a lake, you feel a momentary pang of annoyance. You've lost $4. Here, if you hit a feathery into the ocean, you have lost the medieval equivalent of a car payment. This changes how you play. You don't take risks, you don't try to cut the corner over the ravine. You play conservatively, terrified of losing your investment. When you search for a lost ball in the gorse bushes, you don't look for 5 minutes. You look until it gets dark. You come back the next day and look again. And the feathery has a weakness. It is organic. It is made of skin and feathers. What happens to skin and feathers when they get wet? They absorb water. You've been playing in the rain for an hour now. Your ball is no longer hard and bouncy. It has become sodden. It is heavy. It is soft. When you hit it, it doesn't make a sharp click. It makes a dull, depressing thud like hitting a wet roll of socks. It flies half the distance it did on the first hole, and if you hit it too hard with an iron club, you might cut the leather. Once the leather is cut, the feathers burst out in a tragic explosion of white fluff. Your expensive ball is dead, so you treat the ball with reverence. You whisper to it. You pray to it. Now, let's talk about how you carry all this. You look around for your bag. There isn't one. The golf bag hasn't been invented yet. Why would it be? You only have 4 or 5 clubs. You carry them under your arm like a bundle of firewood. Or, if you have a caddy, a luxury we will discuss later, he carries them under his arm. But today it's just you. Every time you want to make a shot, you have to drop your other clubs on the ground. The wet, muddy ground. This means the grips get wet. The wood gets wet. You spend half your time wiping mud off your handles with your already dirty cloak. It is a constant battle against entropy. There are no head covers. The wood of your clubs bangs together as you walk, creating a rhythmic clatter. Clack, clack, clack that echoes in the silence of the dunes. It's a lonely sound. You select a club for your next shot. It's a rut iron. It has a tiny shovel-like head designed specifically for digging the ball out of cart tracks. Why do you need a club for cart tracks? Because the golf course is also a road. It's a public right-of-way. Carts, horses and cattle use these links to get to the beach. Your ball is sitting in a deep rut carved by a wagon wheel weeks ago. The mud in the rut has dried into concrete. You look at your fragile wooden shaft. You look at the expensive leather ball. You look at the rock-hard rut. You have to make a choice. Do you risk breaking the club to save the ball? Or do you take a gentle swing, accepting you won't get far, to save the equipment? You choose violence. You grip the iron. You swing down hard, crack. The vibration shudders through your skeleton. Your teeth rattle, but the shaft holds. The ball pops out, scuffing along the ground. It's not a pretty shot, but it's safe. You pick up your bundle of clubs from the wet grass. Your lower back is starting to ache from the constant bending over. There are no tees to place the ball on for the drive, remember? You have to pinch a little pyramid of wet sand from the bottom of the teeing area to prop the ball up. Your fingers are constantly covered in grit. You wipe your hands on your breeches. The fabric is now stiff with dried mud and sand. You feel like a walking statue of earth and wool. But there is a beauty in this simplicity. There are no rangefinders to distract you. No GPS watches buzzing on your wrist. No complex yardage books. You judge the distance by eye. You judge the wind by the cold on your cheek. You judge the club by the weight in your hand. It is tactile. It is raw. You are connected to the game through the nerves in your fingers and the soles of your feet. You reach into your pouch to check on your backup ball. It's safe. You have a small flask of oil in there too to rub on the clubs after the round to feed the wood. These tools are high maintenance. They require care. You have a relationship with them. They aren't disposable commodities. They are heirlooms, passed down or saved up for over months of labour. You look at the head of your putter. It's worn smooth from years of use. The leading edge is rounded. It has character. It has scars, just like you. The wind picks up again, whistling through the hosel of the club you're holding. It's a mournful sound, a low flute note played by the weather. You step up to the next shot. It's a long par 4, though you don't use par yet. The fairway is narrow, bordered by dense heather that looks like a purple bruise on the landscape. If the ball goes in there, it's gone. You grip the club. The pitch is sticky. The rain is cold. The ball is wet. You swing. The ball lands with a splash, not into water, but into deep sodden turf. It doesn't roll, it plugs, burying itself halfway into the earth like a meteorite hitting a soft planet. As you trudge after it, you realise you aren't walking alone. There is a shadow moving with you, a figure wrapped in ruttistud that flutter in the gale. This is your caddy. In the modern game, a caddy is a professional strategist, a psychologist and an athlete in a white jumpsuit. They have yardage books and laser rangefinders. They know the wind speed and the grain of the grass. Your caddy is none of these things. The word caddy comes from the French cadet, referring to the younger sons of nobility who served in the military. But the person walking next to you is likely not a nobleman. He is a local character, perhaps a fisherman, too old for the boats, or a young street urchin earning a crust of bread. He smells of stale ale and wet dog. He is carrying your clubs, yes, but mostly he's there to act as a beast of burden and a windbreak. He doesn't give you yardages because there are no yards to measure. He doesn't give you advice because, or frankly, he doesn't care if you make a birdie or a triple bogey. He cares about whether you lose the ball. In fact, his most important job happens before you even swing. On blind shots, where the target is hidden behind a dune, you send him running ahead. He stands atop the hill, signalling the line. When you hit, he runs after the ball like a retriever. Remember, that ball is worth a fortune. If he loses it, he doesn't get paid. If he finds it, he might get a tip. This financial dynamic creates a frantic energy in him that contrasts with your slow, frozen misery. You reach your ball. It is sitting in a divot. In the modern era, you might look at your playing partner, shrug and ask for relief. Here, the concept of relief is laughable. The rules of golf in this era are brutally simple. You play the ball as it lies. Always. It doesn't matter if the ball's resting against a tree root. It doesn't matter if it's inside a rabbit burrow. It doesn't matter if it's sitting in ankle-deep water. You hit it or you forfeit the hole. This creates a game that is less about technical perfection and more about creative improvisation. You have to invent shots. You have to chip the ball off a cobblestone path. You have to putt through a puddle. The course is an obstacle course, and the rules are indifferent to your suffering. This brings us to the green, and the cruelest rule of all, the stymie. You're on the putting surface. You're 10 feet from the hole. Your opponent is 2 feet from the hole. In the modern game, he would mark his ball with a coin and lift it out of your way. But in this time, there are no ball markers. He leaves his ball exactly where it is. And because he's directly in your line, his ball is a hazard. You have to putt over his ball or around it. You stare at the situation. If you hit his ball, yours might ricochet off the green. If you knock his ball into the hole, he counts it as sunk. It is a psychological torture. You have to take your lofted iron on the green and try to chip your ball over his, hoping it lands soft enough to stay near the hole. You attempt the shot, you clip the ball perfectly. It hops over your opponent's leather sphere, lands with a thud and rolls just past the cup. Halved, your opponent grunts. This brings us to the real heart of the matter. Why are you doing this? You aren't playing for a handicap. The handicap system won't be invented for centuries. You aren't playing for a trophy, you're playing for money. Golf at its core was a vehicle for gambling. The Scots were famous for betting on anything: cockfights, archery, dice, and golf was just another way to exchange coins. You and your opponent have wagered a few shillings on the match. It doesn't sound like much, but in an economy where cash is scarce, it's significant. It's the price of a good dinner, a new pair of boots, or a barrel of ale. This changes the atmosphere of the walk. It adds a layer of sharp metallic tension to the cold air. Every swing has a financial consequence. When you slice the ball into the winds, the thick brush, you aren't just losing a stroke, you're losing your dinner. You walk to the next tee. The wind has shifted. It's coming off the land now, bringing the smell of peat smoke from the village chimneys. It's a comforting smell, a reminder that warmth exists somewhere. Even if you can't feel it right now, you look at your opponent. Who is he? This is one of the most fascinating aspects of early golf, the social mixing. The linksland was common ground. On any given afternoon you might see a merchant playing against a stonemason, or a local lord, playing against a carpenter. The wind does not respect rank. The rain does not bow to titles. On the course, everyone is equal in their wretchedness. A muddy lie is a muddy lie, whether you are wearing silk underwear or burlap. There are records of kings playing this game, James IV, Mary Queen of Scots, but they played on the same rough ground as the peasants. There were no private courses. This created a unique social bubble, where the rigid class structures of the Middle Ages dissolved slightly. For 4 hours, you are just two souls trying to conquer the landscape. You share a flask of whiskey. You share the frustration. You share the cold. But don't mistake this for modern democracy. The equipment created the divide. The poor played with discarded clubs and balls that were so beaten up they were barely spherical. The rich played with imported wood and fresh feathers. But the game itself? The game was the great leveller. You are now deep into the inward 9, the journey back toward the town. The fatigue is setting in. Swinging a heavy wooden club while wearing 5 pounds of wet wool is exhausting. Your shoulders burn and your grip is failing. This is where the caddy becomes a crutch, metaphorically and sometimes literally. He hands you a flask. It's not water. It's likely aquavitae, early whiskey, or perhaps a rough brandy. It burns your throat and lights a small fire in your stomach. It's not for hydration, it's for antifreeze. You take a swig and hand it back. He takes a swig too. It's understood. You approach a hole known as the short hole. It's only 120 yards, but it requires you to hit over a steep ridge of sand dunes. You can't see the green. It's a blind shot. Blind shots were a staple of early golf. Modern architects hate them. They want you to see the challenge. Ancient golf didn't care what you could see. You just had to trust. You had to trust your caddy's directions, trust your swing, and trust that the sheep hadn't moved since you last looked. You launch the ball high. The wind catches it. Holding it in the air like a kite, it drops behind the dune. You listen. You don't hear a thud. You don't hear a splash. Safe, the caddy mutters. You climb the dune to find the ball. It is sitting on the green 5 feet from the hole. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. For 10 seconds you forget the cold, you forget the wet socks, you forget the debt you owe the blacksmith. The serotonin hit is powerful. This is the drug that keeps people coming back to this miserable, beautiful wasteland for 600 years. But the joy is fleeting. You still have to putt. The green here is exposed to the full force of the ocean gale. The ball oscillates on the ground. You have to time your putt between the gusts. If you putt while the wind is blowing, it might push your ball 3 inches offline. You wait. The wind drops for a split second. You strike. The ball rattles into the cup. You win the hole. You are 1-up in the match. The tension ratchets up as you have 2 holes left to play. As you walk to the next tee, you pass a group of locals who aren't playing. They are practicing archery. This is a reminder of the legal history of the game. For decades, golf was actually banned. In 1457, King James II banned golf because young men were spending too much time hitting rocks with sticks and not enough time practicing with their longbows, which were essential for national defence. Golf is unprofitable, the decree said. And honestly, standing here in the freezing rain, losing money to a stonemason, you can't help but agree with the king. It is deeply unprofitable. But the ban didn't work. People ignored it. They bought their bows, they showed up for the mandatory practice, and then they ran right back to the links. The addiction was too strong. You nod to the archers. They nod back. They know you're crazy. You know they're bored. You are now on the penultimate hole. The light is failing fast. In the medieval world, there are no floodlights. When the sun goes down, the game is over. If you are tied when it gets dark, the match is a draw. This adds a race against time to the game. You are walking faster now. You aren't taking practice swings. You are playing ready golf out of necessity. The shadows of the dunes stretch out, looking like long, dark fingers reaching for you. The temperature drops another 5 degrees. The wet wool on your back begins to stiffen as it freezes. Your opponent hits a terrible shot. His ball flies into a patch of thick heather. You watch him trudge into the bushes. He starts hacking away. Thwack, thwack. He is arguing with the bush. The bush is winning. He emerges, red-faced and furious. His ball finally back on the grass. He has taken 3 strokes to move it 10 yards. "Your hole," he growls. "You are now dormi." This is an old term meaning you are as many holes up as there are holes left to play. You cannot lose the match. The worst you can do is tie. The pressure shifts. You feel lighter. But the final hole is a beast. It leads straight back toward the town, toward the smoke and the lights. But to get there, you have to cross the Swilcanburn, a small winding creek that snakes through the course. It's not a wide river, but it's deep, and the banks are steep and muddy. There is a stone bridge, a small arched structure that has stood for centuries. You could aim for the bridge, but it's narrow. You decide to lay up. You hit a gentle shot short of the water. You are playing it safe. You are protecting your winnings. Your opponent, desperate now, tries to clear the creek in one mighty blow. He swings his driver with everything he has. He grunts with the effort. The ball screams off the wooden face. It clears the water by inches, landing on the far bank and rolling up toward the tavern. It's a heroic shot. A shot that will be talked about later tonight. You cross the bridge. The stone is slippery under your boots. You look down at the dark, rushing water. It's full of lost balls, broken clubs, and the dreams of lesser golfers. You chip onto the final green. The town walls loom above you. People are watching now. Passers-by, beggars, other golfers finishing their rounds. The anonymity of the dunes is gone. You're back in civilization. You put out. The match is over. You shake hands. The grip is firm despite the frozen fingers. There is a mutual respect there. You have both survived the ordeal. Money changes hands. The silver coins feel cold and heavy. You hand a small coin to your caddy. He bites it, nods, and disappears into the shadows of the alleyway without a word. You are left standing alone on the edge of the green, your club under your arm, the salt drying on your face. The game is done, but the experience isn't over, because now comes the best part of medieval golf, the part that justifies all the suffering. You turn toward the warm yellow light spilling from the doorway of the nearest building, the tavern. You push open the heavy oak door. The heat hits you first, a physical wall of warmth that smells of roasted meat, stale beer, damp wool and wood smoke. It is the smell of civilization. Inside, the air is thick and hazy. A massive fire roars in the hearth, casting dancing orange shadows against the soot-stained stone walls. The noise is a dull roar of conversation, laughter, and the clinking of pewter mugs. You find a spot on a rough wooden bench near the fire. You don't take off your coat immediately. The cold is still clinging to your skin like a second layer. You just sit there, letting the heat seep into your frozen joints. Your caddie is already gone, off to spend his coin on bread or dice. A serving girl slams a clay jug of ale down in front of you. It's dark, thick, and room temperature, which, in this room, is warm. You wrap your numb fingers around the rough clay. The first sip tastes like liquid bread. It's sour, heavy, and absolutely perfect. You look around the room. This is the original clubhouse, but there are no blazers here, no committee meetings, just a collection of exhausted souls thawing out. Over in the corner, your opponent is arguing with a fishmonger about the price of herring. The game is already forgotten. The animosity of the match has evaporated with the heat of the fire. That is the magic of the tavern. It is the neutral ground where the hierarchy of the outside world is suspended, much like the Lynx land itself. You look down at your boots. The leather is steaming slightly as it dries. You are covered in mud. There is sand in your hair. You are physically drained in a way that feels different from manual labour. Labour is something you do for others. This exhaustion, this is yours. You earned it. As you stare into the fire, your mind drifts back to the course. You don't think about the cold anymore. You don't remember the stinging rain. You remember the way the ball hung in the air against the grey sky on the fourth hole. You remember the sound of the putt dropping on the eighth. Why do we do it? It's a question that has puzzled philosophers and wives for 600 years. Why would a rational human being leave the comfort of a warm house to walk 4 miles in a gale, hitting a rock with a stick? Perhaps it's because in the medieval world life is chaotic. You have no control over the harvest. You have no control over the king's taxes. You have no control over sickness. But on the links, you have agency. The ball goes where you tell it to, or at least it goes where you hit it. The failures are your failures. The victories, however small, are your victories. It is a microcosm of life, but one where the stakes are manageable. You aren't fighting for your life, you're fighting for par, even if you don't know that word yet. The ale is finished. The fire is dying down to glowing embers. The tavern is quieting. The locals are heading home. You stand up. Your legs are stiff. You wrap your cloak tight again. You step back out into the night. The wind has died down. The storm has passed. The sky has cleared, revealing a tapestry of stars that burn with a brightness modern people will never see. The Milky Way is a slash of white paint across the black void. The town is dark. There are no streetlights. You navigate by the pale light of the moon reflecting off the cobblestones. It's quiet. The only sound is your own footsteps and the distant rhythmic shushing of the sea. You reach your home. It's humble, but it's yours. You latch the door behind you, shutting out the world. You strip off the wet layers. The wool, the linen, the leather. You are back to being just a man. You crawl into your bed. It's not a modern mattress. It's straw, stuffed into a sack, covered with a rough sheet. But tonight it feels like a cloud. You pull the heavy furs up to your chin. The warmth of the blankets meets the lingering warmth of the ale in your belly. Your body is heavy. Your muscles are twitching slightly as they relax. It's a good feeling. The golfer's tired. You close your eyes, and as you drift off, you don't see the darkness of the room. You see the green. You see the dunes rolling away into the distance. You see the path winding through the gorse. You realise that you will go back. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon. You will buy a new ball. You will fix the wrapping on your club, and you will walk back out into the wind. Because out there in the wild, grey emptiness of the links, you found something that is rare in this hard, medieval life. You found a moment of silence, a moment of focus, a moment where the only thing that mattered in the entire universe was a small leather ball and the patch of grass beneath it. But that is a problem for another day. Right now the wind is outside and you are inside. You're warm, you're safe, the game is done. So take a deep breath, let it out slowly. If you're still awake, thank you for walking the links with me tonight. I hope the wind wasn't too cold. I'll see you in the next one. Good night.